Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Michelle Stern. So, as you can see, this video is about the to-do, the cascas, the drama, you name it, that took place in the House on Tuesday when the opposition, led by Mark Golding, the Englishman, walked out of the Parliament because he was upset that Juliet Holness, the Speaker of the House, turned off his mic. He was audibly heard to have asked, "Have you turned my mic off? Have you turned my mic off?" Next thing we know, we saw him gathering up his papers and walking out, which of course obliged the MPs on his side to follow suit and walked out. Then he held a press conference, as you can see, flanked by Philip Paulwell. I suspect the other person on his left was Natalie Nita, and he was giving his version of events. Now we are going to examine his version of events to see if they accord with facts or he is making up stories as he goes along, or it's possible, as we have been saying for a long time, this man has a brain issue. Something is wrong with him that is not making him remember things as he should. He's now 60. Perhaps he's having some mental issues. And even though we've been asking for a medical record of this man because of his utterances, we have not seen any, don't expect to see any. But his mental deterioration seems to me, and I'm no doctor, but it seems to me that he's deteriorating. Nevertheless, let us take him as we find him and examine his words.
The opposition is being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions relating to what the minister has said in his statement.
So, according to him, the opposition is being prevented deliberately. The opposition is being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions relating to what the minister has said in his statement. Now, who was the minister he's referring to? He was referring to the Minister of Water, Environment, and Climate Change, Matthew Samuda. Now, Matthew Samuda, as the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, he is the one that has portfolio responsibility for the Met Office. And you know, the Met Office is responsible for bringing us the weather and weather-related conditions.
Minister from St. Anne Northeast, member from St. Anne Northeast, the Minister of Water, Environment, Climate Change, will now make his statement.
Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon to update this Honourable House and the people of Jamaica on the development of Tropical Storm Melissa, which has formed over the Caribbean Sea and is now posing a threat to several territories in our region, including our beloved island. Madam Speaker, Melissa's formation is a sobering reminder that this year's Atlantic hurricane season will not be ending quietly. As of this morning, reports from the National Hurricane Center, the division of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the USA, which tracks and predicts tropical cyclones, indicated that the storm is churning approximately 480 kilometers, which is approximately 300 miles south of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, or 630 kilometers southeast of Morant Point, with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour and or approximately 85 kilometers per hour. Now that the area of low pressure has strengthened to a tropical storm, the system has slowed significantly and further decreased in the forward speed, and further decreases in the forward speed is indeed projected. Hence, the system is likely to linger in the Caribbean waters for the next few days and take a little while longer to reach our shores. We are now expecting to start experiencing heavy rains sometime tomorrow night at current projections, but to note that the situation is indeed fluid and the Hurricane Center and our own Met Service is indeed monitoring closely. Now that the area of low Current projections show that it could intensify to a Category 1 hurricane by latest Saturday, fueled by unusually warm waters of the Caribbean at this time of the year. I must emphasize that the increased heat is no doubt in our mind related to broad-based global climate change. At present, a tropical storm watch has been issued for Jamaica. While the forecast remains uncertain, meteorological models suggest that Jamaica could experience heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and possible flash flooding, especially in the east, as the storm tracks northward later this week. We are particularly mindful of the potential for landslides in our mountainous parishes, especially in areas where soil saturation is already high, as we would have seen the October rains on in earnest even this afternoon. Madam Speaker, while the center of Melissa's projected path currently points towards Hispaniola, the storm's proximity to Jamaica demands our highest level of vigilance. As we have learned through experience, tropical systems of this nature can shift course with little warning, and even indirect impacts can bring significant disruption to lives, livelihoods, and property.
So what have we been hearing so far? We have been hearing about the tropical storm that has formed out at sea and its projected path from the minister who is responsible for the Met Office. He is the Minister of Water, Environment, and Climate Change. And so it is his responsibility to the Parliament to report on information that is coming out of the Met Office, particularly those of extreme weather conditions threatening Jamaica. That is why he is the one is informing us as to what is going on with this storm, not anybody else. Now, he's about to tell us what the government's preparations are for this impending storm. Somewhere along the line, we are going to get some weather conditions, and he expects, and the government expects, that in areas that are prone to landslide and so on, that may occur. So he is now going to tell us what the preparations are. And in doing so, he's going to tell us now about other areas that are outside of his own responsibility, but includes the coordination of the Met Office. You follow? Yes. And he's doing so because the minister that is responsible is off the island. Even so, he was emphasizing that the government is joined up. So this was what would have enabled him now to come and say, outside of his information that he's bringing, what it is that is being done in order to protect us, and the coordination that's being done between the Met Office, the ODPEN, the Office of the Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, and what results the government expect to yield from these preparations. Now, ODPEN falls under the Ministry of Local Government. That is definitely Desmond Mackenzie's portfolio. So any reference he makes to ODPEN and their preparation is not within his portfolio. But he did say he was speaking on behalf of Desmond Mackenzie, who was abroad. In other words, he would have come to the Parliament and simply delivered the information about the progress of the storm. Desmond Mackenzie would have gotten up and give us some information about the preparedness. He was not in the Parliament, nor the Prime Minister, and so Matthew Samuda, it appears, was delivering two statements in the Parliament. One statement under his portfolio, the other statement under the portfolio of Desmond Mackenzie, because he was abroad and the Prime Minister was not in the Parliament to deliver the statement on behalf of his government. You're following? Yes. No. It is this aspect of it that caused the problem, and you will see what I'm talking about shortly.
Our emergency management teams under the coordination of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, are on full alert. Importantly, I want to assure you that your government is working tirelessly to ensure that the systems we have developed to protect you are indeed activated. The Met Service of Jamaica, for which I have portfolio responsibility, The Met Service of Jamaica, for which I have portfolio responsibility, continues to monitor the storm's movement closely and will provide continuous updates as new data becomes available. This administration is one that puts the concept of joined-up government certainly into practice. So the Met Service and ODPEM have been collaborating closely to ensure a smooth flow of information and preparatory activities. Relevant ministries and agencies have been advised to activate their preparedness protocols.
So let me butt in here a bit. He said relevant ministries and agencies have been advised to activate their preparedness protocol. Who would have advised them? That would be the Office of Disaster Preparedness.
In this respect, I'm also speaking and sharing on behalf of my colleague, Minister Desmond McKenzie, the minister responsible for ODPEM, who is overseas on personal business. We are in close contact and continue to monitor to ensure that we're able to help Jamaica navigate this tropical storm threat.
You heard that. You heard him say it very plainly that he is not the minister that is in charge of ODPEN, right? He said, in this respect, I'm also speaking and sharing on behalf of my colleague, Minister Desmond McKenzie, the minister responsible for ODPEM, who is overseas on personal business. Now, I want you to pay close attention. Whenever you see the camera point to the opposition side, I want you to pay close attention to the members and what they are doing. Remember now, pay close attention.
As you are aware, ODPEM is the country's primary disaster preparedness response agency and works closely with all local authorities in the preventative phase of disaster management. In this respect, disaster coordinators are on alert to assist potentially vulnerable persons in our communities across the island. Additionally, the island-wide network of 881 shelters will be made available as the need arises, and the shelter managers are already on alert and preparing the designated spaces.
Again, he is delivering information that is not under his own portfolio, but under the portfolio of Desmond McKenzie. You follow me? Yes.
Later today, at 3:30 p.m., the National Response Team will be meeting to evaluate the situation and the next steps. This team is coordinated by the ODPEM and involves a wide range of stakeholders, including the Met Service and municipal corporations. On behalf of Minister Morgan, I am advising also that the NWA is currently assessing drains and will take necessary emergency action based on the current threat assessment.
Oh, I see. So not only was he delivering a statement on behalf of Desmond McKenzie, who was in foreign, he was also making a statement on behalf of Nestor Morgan, the minister, who was actually in the parliament at the time. Now, I don't know why. Maybe he had originally indicated that he would not have been there. And what did he say? On behalf of Minister Morgan, I am advising also that the National Works Agency is currently assessing drains. You heard that? The National Works Agency is currently assessing drains and will take necessary emergency action based on the current threat assessment. So what this information would suggest is that there are some drains that fall under the NWA, National Works Agency, and some which falls under the Ministry of Local Government, and it is the municipal corporations that's responsible for cleaning, I suppose, but it's two different ministries that's responsible for all of our drains. Now, it's very, very important that you remember this part of the statement made by Samuda, because that is the crux of the fuss that was kicked up in the parliament. So this is an abridged statement of what Matthew Samuda had said. Yes, we cut it short so that we can now get into the meat of the matter. Had Matthew Samuda not bring the statement or information about what ODPEN was doing in preparation, then it would not have been available to the Parliament, because neither Desmond McKenzie nor the Prime Minister was in the House to speak on the matter. Somebody had to bring some information to Parliament so the nation will know that there is preparation being made for the storm. So let us simplify the thing a little so that we can better understand what was the fuss about. Now, let us say for argument's sake that the message was not brought by Samuda. He would have come and spoken about his portfolio, what the Met Office reported. And somebody else would have been asked by Mackenzie and Morgan to bring their message. And let us say they wanted to give a backbencher an opportunity like Dwayne Smith and say, young fellow, you come and you talk on our behalf since you don't have nothing doing. And they gave him the message to deliver, talking about the preparation of ODPEN, as well as that the NAA were assessing the drains and they were going to take whatever emergency steps that were necessary to prepare for whatever it is that we are facing. That is the message that he would have been delivering. What would have happened? The same thing that happened would have happened. The opposition got up and wanted to find out things about drains that he could not answer. He was just asked to deliver a message. He is not in the Ministry of Local Government and he knows nothing about the NAA. He's a backbencher. So if you ask him, so what it is that we are doing about the drains, he can't tell you, right? And you're going to ask him, what about contractors are not paid? How can you ask him that? How is he going to answer? It is the same effect as Samuda attempting to answer those questions. Him in a different ministry. Him not know about them sitting there. Are you understanding me? So, let us now hear what happened in Parliament when Samuda was done. We're not going to play the whole long length of it, but we are going to let you hear what question it was that Chris Brown, the Member of Parliament for St. Mary Southeastern, had asked Samuda.
All right, so members, in this order, your hands were raised. The member from St. Mary Southeast was first, the member from St. Catherine Eastern after, then the member from Kingston Eastern after that, the member from St. Andrews Southeast was fourth. All right, so members, let's go. Question from St. Mary Southeast, please. Question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I have the honor of rising as a member from Southeast St. Mary.
Let me stop that right now. You will have an opportunity, every member in this House, to do your constituency debate and to grandstand.
Thank you.
At statement by Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister.
Member from St. Mary. Member from St. Mary Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member from St. Mary Southeast.
Yes.
For those persons who are not au fait with the standing orders and the operations of Parliament, I will advise you. Statement by Minister is followed by a 5-minute response. It is the only response that is made in the House to a statement by Minister. After which, only questions are taken, and your questions need to be exactly that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Once again,
Madam,
please avail yourself of Standing Order 11A with also emphasis on Standing Order 17, subsection 2.
Thank you, Madam.
Proceed,
Madam
please.
Speaker, simply saying that I am pleased to stand in the capacity as member from Southeastern St. Mary.
So despite the fact that the Speaker of the House told him not to do so, he went ahead and did it anyway. And he was roundly applauded by his colleagues, encouraging him to let him believe that that is how he should operate, even the ones that just come in at the House. Now, my friends, I think what we're looking at here is the first signs of how this particular member of parliament thinks he's going to operate in our house.
Proceed,
Madam
please.
Speaker, simply saying that I am pleased to stand in the capacity as member from Southeastern St. Mary. And I want to thank the Minister for his statement. Landslides are a feature of these systems that are before us and that we are discussing today. In fact, over the past...
Now you remember that the speaker took the time to explain to him how the thing worked. The statement is made by a minister, somebody on the opposition, then speak for 5 minutes, making another statement for 5 minutes, and then after that, there are no more statements. It is simply for you to get up and ask your question of the minister based upon what it is that he was reported on within the purview of his own ministry. That's what he was told. What did he do when he got up? First thing he did was to talk about Southeast St. Mary, which he told him not to do. The next minute, he started to give a statement in defiance of the ruling of the speaker. So there you are, more signs. And then his mic was turned off and he appeared not to have been aware of it. So he kept chatting and chatting and chatting, and heaven knows what was said because the mic was off. Those in the parliament could hear what he was saying, not us.
Members, if you would like to proceed, the order in respect of statement by ministers, and I'll reiterate it because I do not think any member is desirous of standing and making a statement when you have been advised by the speaker that it is not to be done. You are required to stand and ask your question. And it is for the efficient order of this honorable House. Member, when you're called, ask your question and take your seat. Keep your mic on in the event that your question is not properly answered. Members, additionally, do not stand and ask a question that was already asked. Member from St. Mary, Southeast.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So as I was saying in framing my question, Madam Speaker and Minister, land slippage has been a feature of these systems. In fact, over the past few days, we have had a lot of rains in Southeast, and we have had significant landslides blocking several roads. In terms of the engagement with the NAA as it relates to clearing of these roads, Minister, I'm advised that there's a reluctance on the part of the contractors
Member,
to...
Member, point of order.
Yes.
Point of order. The question being asked by a member must be related to the statement made by the minister.
But I'm going there. I'm doing that.
The minister is not in charge of landslide.
But we
You
are
can
talking
ask me
about
a
the
question.
system.
Okay? These new members need to know the rules. You can't go landslide and road on the environment and climate change. It has nothing to do with what is said. The question must be related to the statement made by the minister. That be in relation to the statement by the minister.
Yes.
Member from St. Mary Eastern, from St. Mary Southeastern. The member who rise on a point of order from St. Catherine Southwest is actually correct. I have heard the pleadings of the leader of opposition business in the House. However, the statement by the minister is as it relates to the weather system, even if reference is made to landslides. In respect of questions you're asking about landslides and clearing of blockage, and its connection to NAA, or in fact, even, that's what he asked. I listened to his question. I'm not sure if some persons even listen. It would not be an appropriate question for the minister based on the statement he made.
But with
so
all this,
phrase your question in keeping. And members,
Madam Speaker, the issue that we are discussing in terms of the system...
No, member, ask your question. And that's not an appropriate question.
Can they, and thank you for allowing me, Madam Speaker.
Ask your question.
Can the minister advise me and the House if, because as I said, there is a difficulty in terms of contractors indicating that they are not getting paid, to clear the road.
Member, please take your seat.
So despite the fact that he was told that that is not an appropriate question for this particular minister, he still insisted on squeezing it out.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I think, as has been said, I think the House would flow a lot better if members would go directly to the question, right? There is no need for a preamble, right? Just ask the question as you were about to do, and then we would recognize that the question that you were about to ask is not in the remit of the minister who gave the statement. So I would say to members, just go directly to the question. If there is need for additional clarification, when the ministers are answering, they will ask. Just ask directly the questions.
Explained very well, as if we are talking to a 10-year-old child. Let's see what happens next.
No, you don't have any more questions. Do you have any other questions, member? So, member, once again, I hope you took note, ask your question. And member, this is an observation that has been said to every single member of Parliament in the previous dispensation. And I would want to also say it for the benefit of every member here. None of us as members of Parliament are to be involved in any procurement and contract arrangements. So please refrain from those type of statements or questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and that's why I was given the context, but I'll ask the question specific. Is the minister aware that the outstanding payments to contractors...
Now, I don't know about you, my subscribers, but I'm at this stage very, very worried about this member of Parliament. Very worried about him. There seems to be something not clicking in the upstairs, right? Haven't spoken to him like a 10-year-old. I think maybe we should try and speak to him as if we are talking to a man with a brain of a 5-year-old. Let's see if that works. So again, the speaker had to cut his mic. She told him, don't talk about contracts. You heard she said, That was a warning. But this man, who evidently does not have the intellect of a 10-year-old, proceeded to continue with what he was warned not to do. It was not a warning of the parliamentary procedure. It was a warning to himself. Don't talk about those things. You can bring problem upon yourself, is what he was being told. But of course, you don't understand these things, evidently.
The member from St. Catherine Southwest, what is your point of order?
The issue I've already ruled on that issue. Payments by NAA has nothing to do with Minister of Environment, Climate Control and Water. And he makes no mention in the statement by Minister. Questions must be related to the statement made by the Minister. And you already ruled on that. Did he talk about payment? You nincompoop. Did you speak about payment?
The member from St. Catherine East. The member from St. Catherine East, please ask your question.
I want to say something. Say something.
So I played it a second time because at that point you heard the Englishman saying, Denise, we're not asking any question. But the speaker was too quick-fingered. She'll cut him off. And then when she realized what he said, because they can hear what they're saying inside the house, she asked him to repeat what he said on the mic and he refused to do so. Unfortunately, that was a moment that was lost.
Leader of the opposition, you may make your statement on the mic as the leader of the opposition bench so that I can have it properly recorded. No, he's making a statement.
Madam Speaker, I wish to state that members of Parliament are
What's
not...
your point of order, member?
I find the line of questioning by the member to be very dangerous. As members of Parliament are not party to contracts between the National Works Agency and the contractors. So it is very dangerous for a member without having access, unless they have access to the books of the National Works Agency, to stand in Parliament to make claims about payment of contractors without providing any evidence of it. Are you a party to a contract between the government and contractors? It's a very dangerous activity, Madam Speaker. Very dangerous.
Thank you, member. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate that we do have new members in the House. And, you know, it does not have to be in a spirit of acrimony. The Speaker is trying to give directions in relation to the question that is being asked, guidance. Now, the standing orders say clearly that the proper object of a question is to obtain information on a question of fact which is in the official cognizance of the minister to whom it is addressed. So if the Minister of Environment gets up and speaks, and you start by asking him about the NWA, which is not under, you start by asking him, guys, you start by asking him about the NWA, which is not under his purview, then that would not be a proper question. And that's what the Speaker is saying. So once you start like that, then the Speaker and other members will intervene to say that on a point of order that is not what is meant. So what I would say to you, Speaker, if the member can ask a question that does not fly in the face of the standing orders, that is something that the minister has under his portfolio, there will be no problem. So if you ask that question, fine. But if you don't, if you start with something, then the Speaker will intervene.
Well, that seemed clear enough to me. Now, what do you all think? You think your 5-year-old will be able to understand that? Somehow I think so. But let us see if this member, who now you're looking in his face, look as though he wasn't even listening. Or if he was listening, it is difficult to tell whether he's grasping what is being said. Let us now see if he at least has the intellect of a 5-year-old.
Members, as Speaker of this Honourable House, I listen very keenly to the statements made when questions are to be asked. The question being asked by the member is improper and so ruled. Please move on from that statement. It is your third time being told. Your third time being told. You may ask for clarification, member from St. Catherine Northwest.
Madam Speaker, am I? Madam Speaker, a statement was made today by Minister who is appointed to a particular portfolio. In that statement, paragraph 5, the Minister said, and I quote, "We are particularly mindful of the potential for landslides in our mountainous parishes, especially in areas of soil saturation is already high." Therefore, I am confused as to how it is that it is not appropriate within a question to this particular statement, regardless of the minister's portfolio. The minister was appointed by the government to make this particular statement. Therefore, without being properly briefed.
Member, thank you very much. You may take your seat.
Now, my friends, I don't know about you, but it seems clear to me that this country is in some serious trouble, very serious trouble. And when you listen to Damian Crawford, we can only be thankful that they are where they are in opposition. We can only imagine what would happen if they had been the government. This is a clear sign that they were not ready to form government. Damian Crawford, in speaking about the reference to landslide, remember, that is not anything to do with the minister's portfolio. That has to do with either the NWA or the local government, right? It is to do with two separate ministries, nothing to do with what Samuda announced. Remember, had this been Dwayne Smith, who is on the backbench, no ministerial position, and he had made a statement, all of this would have been asked of him. Damian Crawford is supposed to be a bright man. He loves to boast about his brightness and how everybody else dance. Listen to the statement that he availed himself of. Having spoken about the landslide, he went on to say, "Therefore, I am confused as to how it is that it is not appropriate within a question to this particular statement about the landslide, regardless of the minister's portfolio." So he's saying, once the minister mentions it in his statement, it doesn't matter if it's his portfolio or not. In other words, had the Minister of Health got up and spoke about landslides in his statement, he, Damian, believes that that is a proper question to ask him about the contractors of the NWA and whether or not they are being paid and what it is the government is going to do about the landslides. Now, if this is not an idiotic statement in the context of the parliament, I don't know what is.
No, member, you may take your seat. Member, take your seat, please. Member, take your seat, member. Questions. Page 8 of Standing Orders. Number 14, nature of questions. Questions may be put to a minister relating to any subject or department with the responsibility for which he has been charged, or with regard to which he has been assigned the responsibility of answering the questions. Member.
So just taking a look now at Damian's body language and his actions here, it would appear as though after the speaker explained to him what the standing order says, he now understands. So let us give him his due. He has not been in the parliament since 2016, right? I don't know why it is that these new people keep jumping up to their feet and they don't know a damn thing about how the parliament operates. Sit down, shut your ass up, and listen and learn from your elders before you start to speak. So at least he understood. Give him his due. You see that? Take a look at the body language of the Englishman. It is clear that he now understands why the speaker is saying that what they are saying is not supposed to be said. You see them looking at the standing order for themselves, right? Now, how is it that these people can be in the house for so long, right? Powell has been there for donkey ages, and they don't know the rules of the house that they're in.
So I'm going to say it for the final time. Your question must be as it relates to the statement that was made by Minister today. Your question must be exactly in keeping with the statement by Minister. That is the ruling. Your question should not be questions about National Works Agency, Ministry of Health, and all the other ministries that this minister is not responsible for. All your questions must be questions in respect of his statement and ministry. So this is my last time.
So here it is, the speaker giving the new member, the member of parliament for South East St. Mary, who narrowly won the seat by, 17 votes? 19 votes? Yes, he beat Don, right? And so he's in our parliament. And so she told him that this is her final time. She took the time again to explain to him, even giving him examples as to what he cannot ask the minister. Don't ask him nothing about health or any other ministry, just ask him about his own. Now remember, he's now at the level of the intellect of a 5-year-old. Let's see now if he passed even this test.
And that is a ruling of the Speaker. Member from St. Mary, South East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The minister, in his statement, said this administration is one that puts the concept of
just go
joined-up
straight to the question,
government.
member.
Is the minister aware of outstanding amounts?
Is the minister aware of outstanding amounts? So it is clear where his question was going. He was once again going to ask about the non-payment of contractors. Now, I don't think anybody can argue that the speaker did not have and exercise the patience of Job. With a man who clearly is displaying the intellect of less than even a 5-year-old. And that is saying it nicely. Because to say something else, like what was implied when the question was asked of him, does he have a contract with the government of Jamaica? Why is he so interested? Being the fact that he's so dumb, it would not surprise me at the end of the day if he had a contract with the government of Jamaica and did not declare it. I would suggest if anybody happen to know who these contractors are, go to the company's office and look them up and see if he has an interest in any of those companies, or see if he is connected in any way with any of them in a professional capacity of some sort or the other. There must be a reason why he insists upon asking this question even to somebody who has no knowledge of what he's talking about. He clearly wants somebody to hear him asking the question. He must be representing somebody, somebody's interest, right? Why he is insisting on asking the question in Parliament, even though he's been told he can't ask the question. In other words, wait until Desmond Mackenzie come and see if you can get that answer out of him. No, he wants somebody to hear him ask the question. Whose interest is he representing? The people of Southeast St. Mary or some special interest? I hope you don't mind me asking. That is, if of course you even have the capacity to understand anything at all that I'm saying here. When I was advocating you, supposedly as an authentic PNP, I had no idea that I was telling the people of Southeast St. Mary to vote for an idiot. And I'm sorry, I did not know. But let us give him the benefit of the doubt. Let us watch and see the next time he stands in the Parliament if he displays a little more understanding of what is going on. And I, for one, sincerely hope so, because the Parliament is not there to teach people anything. It is there to carry on the nation's business. And we cannot be spending nearly 45 minutes of parliamentary time teaching somebody who refuses to learn, or at least on the face of it, who seems to lack the capacity to learn at this stage of his life.
The opposition is being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions relating to what the minister has said in his statement.
Now, you would have heard the speaker explaining what the standing order says about the type of questions that you can ask a minister. It has to do with his statement, first of all, and it has to do with his portfolio. Even if he made mention of anything else about any other ministry, because in the course of a statement, you may relate or speak about another ministry. You cannot ask him any question about that because that don't fall under for him purview. If you ask him and he answered, all him can tell you say him no know because it is not his ministry. So you would have learned that. And you would have heard Chris Brown asking about the non-payment of contractors by the NWA. That was what he wanted to ask. When he spoke about the landslide, that was his preamble. He was setting the question up in order to ask about the contractors not being paid. Now, that comes under the NWA. That has nothing to do with Matthew Samuda. And therefore, when the Englishman claimed that the opposition was being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions relating to what the minister has said in his statement, he may have said in his statement, mentioning landslide, he said nothing at all about payments to contractors, and it's not his business on a film portfolio. It falls under another ministry. I think it has to do with Nestor Morgan. So when Mark Golding said that the opposition is being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions relating to what the minister has said in his statement, that of course is not true. The question that Chris Brown was asking had nothing whatsoever to do with the minister's portfolio. Nothing whatsoever. There was no mention of any payment of any contractor. So Mark Golding, in his intemperate way, walk out of the house and now must come and explain to the Jamaican people why. Right? You walk out of the house because Julia told us turn off your mic. You ask her if she turn off your mic. Twice you ask her, and then you take up your things and walk out. And now you come now to claim that the reason why you walk out of the house was because the opposition is being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions. What pertinent question? Not for the first time, of course, you are lying to the public.
This is a thwarting of the democracy. It makes a mockery of the parliament, and it's an abuse of the powers of the speaker. And we want Jamaica as a whole to be very aware of the threat to our democracy that is posed when the parliament's rules are interpreted and applied in a way that prevents the opposition from being an effective opposition carrying out their duty to the public under the Constitution to hold the government accountable.
You know, the problem with this man, this white man you're seeing on your screen, is that he thinks that you black and therefore that automatically means you're stupid. Your brain's small and your penis big if you're a man, and as a woman, your brain's small, and therefore you don't have a big head like his with a big brain in it. So according to his scientists, the fact that him have a big brain means that him smart and you fool and don't have the capacity to understand these things. So any foolishness him come and tell you, you're going to listen. The man is in the parliament. He constantly spoke like somebody gave him something from the rear end of the chicken to eat. He wouldn't stop chat. He was eating in the parliament and chatting away. Right? And he would have heard the standing order being explained. He claimed that he's a first-rate commercial lawyer. So even if he has no sense at all in other matters, he should at least understand the standing orders of the parliament. They're very simple. Didn't you understand what it was that was read to you? Of course. So therefore, he knows very well that it was his side that was thwarting the democracy of the country and attempting to ask a question that was improper. Why? Because he saw an opportunity to score cheap political points. They all did, especially the more experienced one who's been there for years. They saw the opportunity to score cheap political points, so they wanted an inadmissible question to be asked of a minister to whom the question cannot be asked. That's what this is all about. And when the speaker put an end to it and refused to allow them to put the question to the minister, then walk out and now come in to lie to the public, playing the victim.
Question after question was prevented from being asked. I myself had my microphone turned off when I was raising a submission to the speaker as to why the manner in which she was conducting the proceedings was improper, irregular, unparliamentary, and thwarting the democracy of the country and should not continue.
Speaker after speaker. So you heard Damian Crawford rose to his feet and asked and said that he did not understand and he wanted to continue. When the speaker cut him off, explained to him the rules, he sat quietly and never made any further murmuring. Then you had Denise Daly attempting to stand on her feet, and he told her not to ask any question. Not to ask any questions until the member question is allowed. He wanted this thing desperately to be mentioned in the parliament, that there are contractors who are not being paid, and he wanted the question to be put to a minister who can answer it. The question is, why? Look at him, coming to lie to the public, playing the victim, when he was the one that was attempting to flout the rules of the parliament that was there long before him.
She shut us down, and we felt compelled to respond by taking ourselves out. We didn't have any other recourse at the time, but we will be considering other approaches going forward. We don't intend to absent ourselves from proceedings as a general practice. That is a last resort.
What you're looking at here is a racist son of a gun. He's a racist son of a gun. Right? He is contemptuous of black people. When he gets up to speak in the house, you know what them say? When I talk, no damn dog bark. That's him. The son of slave owners in this country. Own people like me and you. And that is how he sees us. His upbringing. He was brought up to think of himself as a British man, not as a Jamaican. And so for all his life, he held a British passport, which he has renewed about 4 times since he was 18 years old. He himself did it, with an unconditional landing permit stamp in it that allowed him to live in Jamaica, work and go to school legally. Claims him a Jamaican, born here, but yet he never sought to get a Jamaican passport until May of 2011, when he was almost 46 years old. His loyalty, his people, and those he wants to associate himself with are the British people. Yes, that's why he held on to his people's passport and never wanted to let it go. So he stood in the Parliament and the Speaker shut him down because he was talking about he wants to hear what the member is saying. That's Chris Brown, asking about National Works Agency not paying them contractors. And he never heard the question. Really? Maybe you should shut your damn mouth in the Parliament and listen and you will hear. How many times did the Speaker tell the member you cannot ask about contract and you telling me so you never hear that? Let me tell you something. Until we get this curse out of the Parliament, it's going to be a mess and it's going to continue. And I hope the Speaker stand her ground. She don't look like anybody that anybody can bully. And shut you down every time you come with your crap like you are in a damn Bakramasa. Bakramasa day is done. Your time is up. You expire a long time. And it will never return. Anyway, folks, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found the information I provided useful and informative. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.